Welcome back, everybody. I think we have our new panel all ready to go. So I think we should just start so that we don't lose too much more time. So now, as I said earlier, we are going to go on a session where we look at how do we go from the sort of theory to the practice, going into the implementation plan, and looking at what the BlueMed strategic joint actions are all about. So here we're going to have two questions, two people speaking, and those two people I'm going to ask a question each. The first person who will be speaking is Esther Chacón Campollo, and really, if I've mispronounced your name, I'm so very sorry. She is from the Agencia Estatal de Investigación, or AEI, in Spain. Esther, the question that we have for you is, can you tell us how the consensus process for endorsing the BlueMed priorities and strategic actions was achieved?
Yes, thank you, Sheila. Thank you, everybody. Upon GSO BlueMed working group endorsement of the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, this RIA we're referring all the time, at the BlueMed CSA, we started to think how to bring challenges identified in that RIA into reality through actions and activities. So first of all, we had to prioritize these challenges and goals, and we would need a process to engage the community of stakeholders belonging to the different Mediterranean countries in this drafting of the plan. And for that purpose, we defined some indicators, and each country would assess the goals in this RIA according to these indicators and their interests. The selection of the priorities was an iterative process that took place first at national level, and afterwards it was agreed at transnational level when we all the CSA community, BlueMed CSA community joined. The level of participation reached here was large and can be considered one of the major strengths of the process, which contributed to create a cohesive BlueMed community. We got contributions from the GSO BlueMed working group delegates, from the partners of the BlueMed CSA, from the coordinators and national people animating the BlueMed platforms, as well as from the funders network that we set up in the framework of the BlueMed CSA. So finally, we ended up with 13 BlueMed priority goals. And once we have these priority goals, we have to bring them to life and assign then these kind of actions or activities that we should address to bring these priorities to life. So we created like a fiche that it was like a template, and each country, a pair of countries would have to fill in this fiche, and these 13 fiche were filled with a champion and co-champion country were selected, always pairing a European and non-European country, giving again the stakeholders of all Mediterranean countries the chance to co-design the plan. So finally, we have 13 fiche, and all the priorities had their associated actions and activities. And the BlueMed implementation plan was finally endorsed in Venice in January 2020. And in parallel, some promotional actions already started, in particular, those actions that was foreseen in the life cycle of the BlueMed CSA project. All those actions, because of the commitment of the co-champion country willing to lead the process. I would like to remark that the leadership of the co-champion countries is essential in the years to come, completing the promotional activities and being proactive in triggering the necessary steps towards the implementation of the actions. And in the same line, the operational network of funders that was set up in the framework of the CSA has equally a crucial role in ensuring the future execution of the implementation plan beyond the lifetime of the BlueMed CSA. So that's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Esther. I'm really happy to hear that you guys have embraced the co-design process, which I think is so important. Okay, then our next speaker is going to be Erasmia Kastanidi, who is from the Hellenic Center for Marine Research. Erasmia, my question to you is, can you provide an example of how the BlueMed platforms were used as a tool to engage national stakeholders from different sectors in a constructive dialogue?
Yes, the platforms have really been the backbone of the holistic attempt of the BlueMed to integrate the knowledge and the ocean dynamics, the functioning and the services, the societal needs with regards to the Mediterranean, and also to achieve the strong synergies that are so important in a Mediterranean level, especially considering the geopolitical complexity in the area. The scope has been exactly that, to enhance the virtuous relationships among the different stakeholders, and the whole process has been achieved by an initial agreement between them that the transnational, and international cooperation are essential, but also to take into account all the national priorities and as well as the possible limitations represented by the cultural differences. In what the platforms are, they are transversal fora that have been categorized into the 4 elements of the blue growth issues. Then these are the knowledge, economy, and technology, which are the 3 thematic categories, and then they're linked directly to corresponding challenges. And the 4th of this fourth fora is policy, which is the cross-cutting theme linked to the cross-cutting challenges that connect all the actions that are needed to secure this effectively the transferability of the blue growth sectors and the value chains. Each of the platforms has been organized by a platform coordinator at the BlueMed level, and then there have been the national platform representatives, or the national pivots, as we have been calling them, who are those that participate in the international level, so taking the national point of view to the international meetings. And throughout the duration of the programs, there have been several consultation events in national and international frameworks. And within these events, specific meetings were included, as well as contribution to the finalization of each update of the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, the SRIA, and significant contribution to the prioritization challenges, like my colleague Esther has just described to you. And especially from 2018 onwards, there have been the participation of the national pivots from the Southern Mediterranean countries, the non-EU countries, together in these consultations and meetings. And the process has always followed the common templates, or questionnaires, or roundtables, or workshops that have taken place throughout the course of the project. Always allowing some sort of flexibility to how these questionnaires or templates will be displayed or asked at the national level, but always having to answer the same type of questions or give the same answers. But in addition to, for example, as just an example, Esther just described to you the prioritization place, how this was given some flexibility to how it would be constructed. Yes. However, most of the meetings, especially while all the platform members were acquainted with the synergies and the synergetic approach that the BlueMed had, would be that everybody would concentrate on the platform for which they were experts in. But at the end of the project, this changed to have cross-platform meetings as well, so to integrate the knowledges of the different sectors. This took place especially with concerns to the priorities. And an example of this cross-cutting or the expertise is, you can see that in the actions that have been proposed by the BlueMed in the implementation plan, and that many of them connect the themes of many priorities, which kind of exemplifies the holistic approach that we have been aiming for from the beginning of BlueMed. One example is the observing systems that connect economic activities and systems and tourism and fisheries and transport routes as a way to increase the knowledge for climate change in the Mediterranean, which is a thematic. It has to do with the observing system, but it has cross-cut connections with most of the priorities that we have identified in the implementation plan. So I think this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Erasmia. And it's great that you mentioned the observing system, because we are now going to go to looking at some examples from the implementation plan. And the first one we're going to be looking at is on the observing system. And I'm going to, in the next 20 minutes, we will have 4 pitch presentations from strategic actions that were proposed in the implementation plan. And it's just 4 of the ones that are there. Obviously, there's many more, so you should definitely go and have a read of it. And so now I'm going to just ask the same question, and then the 4 speakers I'll just introduce you, and you can give me your pitch. Remember, you've got 5 minutes. The first speaker is Jean-François Cadiou, who's from the French National Institute for Ocean Science, and he's going to be talking about the observation system. So Jean-François, take it away.
So good morning to everybody. I will give you a few words about this strategic action, which is under the priority goal number 4. So this goal was selected by many countries during the consultation we have on the priority goals to put forward from the SRIA. And it was considered that to support blue economy, it's really important to have an efficient observing system of systems. So it's assumed that in the Mediterranean, for sustainably managing the resources and develop services offered by the sea, several challenges are faced. So firstly, the lack of up-to-date knowledge on the state of the marine environment and its evolution. And also the difficulty of characterizing the pressure exerted by human activities and their impact on the sea and the coast. And while the complexity of the functioning of the coastal marine socio-ecosystem, socio is important to include in the whole picture. The socio-economic part should be included. And the interaction at work are really high, with a consequent lack of reliable predictive model, and thus the difficulty of building scenarios and predicting the consequences of large-scale change that had been mentioned this morning by Trincardi, for instance, like global warming, sea level rise, biodiversity erosion. And we know that these changes will significantly impact blue economy sectors. We know also that coastal areas concentrate most anthropogenic pressure and are the site of many small-scale processes which are intricate and which are difficult to observe because we are at the interface of the land and the sea, and all this activity should be taken into consideration. So what are the objectives of this strategic action of setting up a regional task force on coastal observing system? Firstly, to set up a coordinated network of Mediterranean coastal multidisciplinary observing stations with the purpose of harmonizing methodologies, to share approaches, and identify laboratories of reference in several areas. This will contribute to reinforce the access to land-based facilities and strengthen the transnational access goals in order to facilitate sharing and access to those facilities for non-European scientists. This will also help to promote open data policies for observation and monitoring data, because we know that data exists, knowledge exists, but there is really gaps to bridge in order to make this data and knowledge more available, more sharing, and easily accessible. So there is a connection between this strategic action on coastal observing system and the other strategic action which is under the same priority, which is to launch a cooperation program for environmental data collection and sharing between marine economic sectors, environmental authorities, beaches, and citizens. So next slide, please. So how to implement this action? It could be launched this year, the second part of this year, by identifying lead organization and launching a startup action to better shape this task force and really launch it. Instruments that could be used could be European Coast Border Cooperation Program, Horizon Europe for sure, and also European Maritime Fishery Fund and InterRegMed programs. It will be important to involve also actors which are main actors in the Mediterranean when we deal with marine economy, blue economy, so which are for the Mediterranean Action Plan, also GPI Oceans, which is active in the Mediterranean, and also UN Ocean Decade, GFCM, and the main marine protected area. The estimated budget is around several million euros. So next slide, please. So we can expect a strong impact from such an action by improving and the support to marine policy. We know that designing marine policies is not easy, and we need really data and knowledge and shared data and knowledge to provide essential information for sound decision making in the field of marine spatial planning, biodiversity and resources preservation, climate change mitigation, and pollution reduction. And we can also expect that there will be improvement in the collection of quality data and their accessibility to marine research projects and to scientists. This will also could be a tool to strengthen the collaboration between European and non-European Mediterranean countries by promoting the sharing of environmental data and the building on the same view of what we have in the Mediterranean. And finally, it will also feed the projects ongoing of building digital twins of ocean and marine ecosystems. And it's also finally expected that such action will help to develop and to strengthen the interaction between the public and private sectors. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jean-François. Okay, next, for the next 5 minutes, we'll have Maria Snoussi, who is from the University Mohammed V in Rabat and the Moroccan delegate for the BlueMed Initiative. And she's going to talk about climate change. So the floor is yours, Maria.
Thank you, Sheila. Good morning, everyone. I will present you the strategic action on how to be prepared to climate change and define adaptation and mitigation action, which belongs to priority 3 of the implementation plan. So as you all know, the Mediterranean has been identified by the IPCC as one of the world's most vulnerable regions in terms of global warming. Indeed, the region is warming 20% faster than the global average. Precipitation are decreasing and sea level rise is rising in some regions. This is a snapshot from the MEDEC report, the first report of MEDEC, and you can see that the climate drivers combined with the non-climate drivers will impact the ecosystems, the water resources, the food security, the coastal zones, and especially, as mentioned by Jean-François, the coastal cities, and the human health. Here you can have some figures, some quantity. Well, this is the next slide. To deal with these issues and to be prepared to climate change, we need to make a comprehensive assessment of climate and anthropogenic related risks and opportunities in the Mediterranean ecosystem and human environment, from the coastal zone to the deep ocean. We need also to develop, enhance and deliver user-friendly tools for dissemination. We need to develop climate adaptation and mitigation strategies, coupling climate change and blue growth activities. And we need also to develop operational observing platforms, as said by previously by Jean-François, coastal monitoring system, early warning systems, and decision matrices to address natural and human-induced disaster and coastal risks. Next slide, please. So this strategic action, the objective of this strategic action is to set up an integrated program to increase knowledge on the impact of global change on Mediterranean marine ecosystems, including food webs, biodiversity, habitats, and therefore on the key socio-economic drivers, and especially fisheries and aquaculture, linking with the priority 2 on sustainable food production, on tourism, linking with the priority 5 on tourism, transport routes, linking with priority 7 on transport, and of course by exploiting appropriate observing system. And this is linked with the P4 on observing system previously presented by Jean-François. So you can see that this strategic action is, let's say, a cross-cutting action linked with many other priorities. So how to implement it? The indicated timing is 2022, and there are many proposed funding and instruments that could be used, especially Horizon Europe with Mission A, Climate Resilient Europe, Mission 100 Climate Neutral Cities by 2030, by and for the citizen, Mission Starfish 2030, a climate neutral, sustainable and productive blue economy, the UN Decade for Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, and also the Blue SOS, which belongs to the European Investment Bank. Among the promotional action, there is the Climate Kick Startups and Toward a Climate Change Mediterranean Sea Capital of the Year. So before leaving, I would like to thank the European Commission. I was really delighted to be part of this great BlueMed initiative. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Maria. Okay, so our next speaker is going to be Elena Ciappi, sorry, terrible, from the National Research Council of Italy, and she's going to be talking about marine renewable energy and marine spatial planning. The 5 minutes is yours, Elena. I can't hear you. Can anybody hear Elena?
May I help you?
Elena, we can't hear you. I don't know if anybody else can hear her. Can the panel members either shake your head yes or no if you can hear her?
Now? Yeah. Can you hear me?
No.
No.
Ah, now we can hear you, Elena.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Sheila, and good morning to everyone. In this presentation, I will talk about two strategic actions that are related to two different priorities for the MED. And we think that these two actions are strictly connected, so has to be presented together and promoted together. Next slide, Margherita. The first one is related to the development of multipurpose platform that can combine green energy production and storage with other uses such as fishing, aquaculture, but also monitoring and maritime surveillance. Another important point for this action is also to analyze the economic impacts and interaction with other maritime uses. This action is linked with another one that is related to maritime spatial planning, which is monitoring, supporting, adapting the implementation process of MSP in the Mediterranean Sea. Next slide, please, Margherita. The idea that these two actions must go together came also from the strategic document, European document. Of course, the European Green Deal, but also in the offshore renewable energy strategy. Besides stating that offshore renewable energy is the technology with the greatest potential to scale up, it is highlighted that there's a need of tool and instruments for this scaling, and in particular, maritime spatial planning is well established and essential tool to anticipate change, to mitigate conflicts, and create positive interaction. As you know, the important objectives, ambitious objective is to have by 2050, 300 gigawatt of energy produced by wind offshore and 40 gigawatt by ocean energy. In the same document, it is also highlighted that all European basins are fundamental towards these objectives, and in particular the Med Sea. Next, Margherita, please. But which is the scenario now in the Mediterranean? Of course, we are just in the early stage of the exploitation. There are some wind farms in France, in Spain, in the south of Italy, and there are some devices for wave energy production all around the Mediterranean Sea that has a lower energy potential with respect to other sea basins, but there is a good potential both for offshore wind, and especially for offshore wind, but also for wave energy. What we need to do is to provide site-specific solution and also to consider the coexistence with other MED uses. But on the other side, there is a great potential for multi-use. And also another key factor is that in the Mediterranean, there is a consolidated research community and also a growing interest from all the stakeholders. On the other side, there are some processes and plans that are ongoing for the Mediterranean Sea related to maritime spatial planning that can help so to promote marine renewable energy and also promote a positive interaction with the other uses. Next one. So there's a need to consider these 4 points and to provide a multidisciplinary action, considering more effort for research and innovation in order to increase the TRLL and decrease the cost of energy by deploying, for instance, a large demonstration project, by integrating and optimize the different subsystems, and also to provide smart idea for energy storage, grid connection, and maintenance. On the other side, we need to study and consider the interaction between marine renewable energy farm and the marine environment, to use, of course, maritime spatial planning to analyze these interaction in the short, medium, and long term, and also to consider in the evaluation the socioeconomic dimension. So for the implementation, there are some proposals that have been submitted in the framework of Horizon 2020, and some other activities that are ongoing, both on the side of marine renewable energy and maritime spatial planning, considering each other, of course. We think to have a number of activities and projects in the medium and long period, and major funding can be found in Horizon Europe, but especially in Interreg-Med, and the tentative budget is some million of euros, of course, to have large floating farm in the Mediterranean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elena. And then finally, we have Pablo Abaunza from the Spanish Institute of Oceanography. He's going to be talking about biodiversity and resources. And Fabio, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheila. I'm going to talk about this strategic action about biodiversity and resources, which is within priority 2, support solution for sustainable production of consumption of food from the sea. This strategic action arose after a reflection where it was necessary not to separate the aspects of biodiversity conservation from those of the sustainable exploitation of marine living resources, and by extension, the production and consumption of foods from marine origin. Next, please. The Mediterranean Sea is an endangered marine biodiversity hotspot. I follow the nice presentation by Professor Trincardi in this aspect of the context. So despite the relatively small size of the Mediterranean Sea, it is home to more than 17,000 species, of which a large percentage are endemic. Furthermore, the degree of heterogeneity in its ecological characteristics must be taken into account. The Western Basin, for example, being much more diverse than the Eastern one. The Mediterranean Sea has the highest proportion of endangered marine areas in Europe. The main risks to biodiversity, which are essentially derived from human activity, have already been identified. Habitat modification and loss, which is the main risk, pollution and eutrophication, overexploitation, alien species, and climate change. In the context of fishery resources and aquaculture, there is a clear need to reverse the situation of overexploitation. More than 60% of fishery resources are being exploited in an unsustainable way. This is the highest percentage worldwide, as shown in the FAO figure on the right. Another aspect to take into account is the small-scale vessels. They are the majority, more than 51,000, and are also the ones that provide the most employment. However, it is industrial fishing that obtains the highest economic return. The total catch, including the Black Sea, was 1.3 million tons, of which 54% corresponded to small pelagic fish. The main country was Turkey, with 23% of the total catch. On the other hand, aquaculture continues to grow progressively, acquiring more and more importance as a supplier of proteins of marine origin. Next, please. So, having seen both contexts, I'm going to discuss the specific objectives of this strategic action. The first would be to establish in the medium long term a plan to protect the marine environment and restore degraded ecosystems and marine biodiversity. Second would be to ensure that the fishery resources are exploited in a sustainable way in the short, medium term, achieving the maximum sustainable yield in all of them, and not, as shown in the figure below, you can see that now we are overexploiting almost all the resources. Finally, climate change is a factor of the first magnitude that must be taken into account in the formulation of alternative management plans to be applied in the future. Next, please. So finally, we have the implementation. It is clear that there is a close parallel with the deployment of the European Framework Directives, MSFD, Common Fisheries Policy, MSP, Habitats, Birds, Water Framework Directive. There is also a clear relationship with the priorities 1, 3, 5, and 7, as well as with the horizontal priorities. The implementation must be done under the framework of an ecosystem approach to fisheries management and to environment management. Our plan would start be realistic in 2022, and the sources of funding and instruments would be various. For example, Horizon Europe, the Farm to Fork Initiative, EMFF, the LIFE program, other programs supported by FAO, GPI Oceans, etc. The promotional action would be through specific workshops and through dissemination in international organizations such as UN Global Compact, UNESCO IOC, or through dissemination with specialized NGOs such as WWF, IUCN, and Oceana. I would like just to, for finish, to thank to Professor Trincardi and Margarita Coppeletto for this opportunity to present this work here. So thank you, everyone. Yes.
Thank you very much, Pablo. That was wonderful. Okay, so now in the program, we are going to hear, you'll see that we're going to hear from some future perspectives for the legacy of the BlueMed program. So now I'm going to just, we've got 4 speakers again, or no, 5 speakers, sorry. And I'm going to ask that you would introduce your initiative and tell us how the strategic actions of the BlueMed Initiative will be taken up. And I'll start with one that's not really, we can't really call Horizon Europe initiative, I guess. So our first speaker is Elisabetta Balzi. She has the unenviable task of stepping into Ziggy Gruber's shoes. So she's the head of Healthy Oceans and Seas Unit at DG Research and Innovation. Elisabetta, your 5 minutes start now.
Thank you very much, Sheila. Good morning, dear colleagues and friends of the Mediterranean, and thank you for this opportunity to participate in this important celebration of the great BlueMed initiative. And I would like, first of all, to congratulate all the founders and the key actors of the BlueMed, Professor Fabio Fava, Margherita, and all the colleagues, for the huge success and the strategic impact that this key initiative has demonstrated during the past years at European and international level. And while today we are celebrating the accomplishment of the BlueMed CSA, this initiative now remains more and more valuable than ever. And we look forward to taking stock of the patrimony that you built, as the father of BlueMed, Fabio, rightly mentioned, in order to prepare the way forward and to contribute to our current EU policy ambitions, particularly through the EU Research and Innovation Framework Program. Now, the strategic importance of the BlueMed has been highlighted recently with great clarity at the highest levels, such as the Valletta Declaration and the Union for Mediterranean Ministerial Declaration, which were recently signed. And today, the BlueMed has a huge potential and responsibility to deliver on our current EU priorities, particularly the Green Deal, but also the recovery and resilience plans, the agenda for digital age, and Europe as a global actor. And I would like to briefly mention three main strands of opportunities where the BlueMed could and should importantly contribute in this current context in the frame of our new European Research Innovation Framework Programme. First opportunity is Horizon Europe, the new framework program for research innovation, which will run from 2021 to 2027 with a proposed budget of 100 billion of euros. And this will provide important opportunities to contribute to our healthy seas and oceans, starting from the first calls which are planned from this May. The second important opportunity that has already been mentioned is the mission on oceans, seas and waters, the Starfish 2030 mission, which is committed to restore our oceans, seas and waters with targets by 2030. And we are currently preparing the implementation plan for this mission, and we will soon need to identify, together with the member states, some lighthouse demonstrators to implement this mission. And here the BlueMed Initiative can have important contribution. Just to give some example, your pilot action of a plastic-free Mediterranean fits perfectly with the targets and could nurture the implementation plan for this mission by showcasing what we call, what we expect to be lighthouse demonstrators. We will also launch a call for proposals for support measures to accompany the preparation of a mission, including national hubs for the mission, and here also the BlueMed platform could also have a potential important role to play. The third opportunity that I would like to mention has already been mentioned, where the BlueMed Initiative has again an important role to play, is the partnership on a climate neutral, sustainable and productive blue economy. And as you know, an alignment of public research and innovation funding is necessary to optimize the impact of the national investments and to contribute significantly to unlock all the potential of the blue economy. So the first steps towards finding a solution are already being implemented. The European member states, with a strong support by the Commission, have created 5 sea basins transnational networks for coordinated international research innovation efforts in the marine and maritime realm. And these networks are already implementing sea basin specific SRIAs, implementation plans, and key areas for research and innovation needs and or joint actions. Now we are gathering together all these sea basins to exchange best practices, to align programs, to optimize synergies and complementarities, and to join efforts in the future partnership on a climate neutral, sustainable and productive blue economy that we are preparing. And this will help to reduce the fragmentation by linking existing activities and efforts to combine and align pan-European, regional and national investments and the identified socio-political priorities for research and innovation. Now, this partnership builds already on existing mature and inclusively regional strategic frameworks like the BlueMed SRIA, and as well others like the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, the Baltic and North Sea, the Black Sea Research and Innovation Initiatives. And the BlueMed already had a key role also to link with the other sea basins, as we heard, for example, from the Black Sea experience. Now, this partnership will deploy one overarching program, creating synergies between programs, instruments, and investments at EU, regional, and national levels, with an openness to collaboration with the private sector and with philanthropy. So the expected impact of this partnership will advance the transformation to a climate neutral, sustainable, and productive blue economy, to support the marine and maritime aspects of a European Green Deal with research innovation actions that generate a strong evidence base of knowledge, information, and know-how. Now, it's worth mentioning that the partnership also aligns with a UN Decade of the Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, contributing to the implementation of the ambitions of the Ocean Decade and its societal outcomes. So here again, that's the third opportunity where the BlueMed has clearly a very important role to play. Now, in conclusion, the patrimony that you have built by this BlueMed initiative has now a key role to play to deliver on the EU policy priorities and to shape our future through research innovation joint efforts. It is important that the BlueMed has, as you mentioned, already an implementation plan, and we look forward to streamline and integrate this implementation plan in order to contribute to these main packages that we are preparing within the European Europe Research Innovation, the Horizon Europe Research Innovation Framework Program. Whether we talk about a future mission, the partnership, or the Horizon Europe program with all its parts, what really counts is your engagement. Your engagement to pool in beliefs, efforts, and resources, as you have done in an excellent way in the BlueMed initiative. So it will be important that we continue on this path. It will be also important we continue the work of a group of senior officials, and we will support this. We will organize 2 additional meetings during this year for further collaboration among all the Mediterranean countries. Working in this collaborative way is key to find opportunities and to exploit the opportunities that Horizon Europe presents and make sure that they will become a reality. I also count on all of you, and I invite you all to participate in the European Research Innovation Days, which will take place online on 23rd and 24th of June of this year, allowing everyone to shape our future together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. So next we have ALESSandra Sensi from the Union for the Mediterranean Secretariat. ALESSandra, your 5 minutes start now.
Many thanks, Sheila, and many thanks to everybody for this very good opportunity to gather all together. For us, it's an extreme pleasure to see and have actually a recap on how the BlueMed work has been shaped over time, and especially how, you know, this important initiative belongs actually to the Mediterranean as one, which is what we are stressing all over. The BlueMed indeed sees nowadays a very strong participation of the South Med countries, and we see this as a very important, let's say, strand of action for the future to come. Indeed, we think as well that the BlueMed implementation plan is a very precious deliverable, and we are also fully committed on our side to support its implementation. As you know already, let's say the BlueMed agenda belongs to various, let's say, operational branch of the UFM activities that go into the blue economy, specifically to the environment and climate change work, as well as the one, of course, on research and innovation, where, let's say, participation in terms of division from both, let's say, blue economy and research and innovation has been accompanying BlueMed all over the way. As it was mentioned before, it's our pleasure as well to communicate that around 2 weeks ago, on the 2nd of February, the second UFM Ministerial Declaration on Sustainable Blue Economy has been adopted by the 42 UFM Euro-Mediterranean countries. We can look at it as a common success. BlueMed is fully acknowledged as a successful part of it. So we are even more, you know, engaging in its, let's say, implementation. What is, let's say, to highlight here is how, let's say, compared to 2015, the scope of action and the scope, let's say, of joint activities has evolved from, let's say, governance, research and innovation to, of course, priority topics like marine litter, cruise shipping, carbon neutral ports, maritime safety and security, and so on. So I'd like also to take the opportunity to acknowledge as well that The UFM is also moving towards another important ministerial declaration on environment and climate change. Hopefully, let's say towards the end of this year, and that in line also with the BlueMed implementation framework, we are directly, let's say, committed on a series, let's say, of action and activities that are currently ongoing. As far as marine litter and plastic is concerned, we have, let's say, up and running activities on marine litter monitoring protocols, as well as a mitigation, let's say, action. This is contextualized within also the overall work that we carried out within, let's say, circular green economy, in particular with application of sustainable consumption and production and resource efficiency. Similarly, we are currently engaged in the preparation of an handbook on sustainable tourism, especially to face, let's say, the challenge of the COVID crisis that has, let's say, hit the sector so hardly. So this is done with a sort of local communities approach. As well as with WestMed, we are fully engaged into the work on green shipping and on ports, which our colleague Daniel Bos will surely talk about, ports as energy community. I'd like also to mention the participation to the sounding board of the Panoramed projects, BlueMed and BioMed, as well as the work on sustainable blue financing and application of this taxonomy principle to concrete areas of work. Last but not least, a special reference actually to the work jointly carried out with our colleagues in higher education, which is indeed on blue skills, career and job. We have all of a series of activity planned for this year, in particular on digitalization of the blue economy sectors, the involvement actually of women in blue economy sectors, as well as what we started already in 2019, namely a series, let's say, of events on the filling the gap between, let's say, the mismatch between skills and job needs. I'd like basically to conclude with a few points also from my colleague Giuseppe Provenzano, who couldn't be here just at this precise time of the day, in particular that the UFM Research and Innovation Working Group will tackle for the future three, let's say, areas of work, which are indeed climate change, marine renewable energy, and health. To conclude, and also with reference to what was said, the support by DG Mare and the Erasmia, we have a very active blue economy community, also thanks to a tool that was launched by DG Mare some years ago, that we are currently hosting, which is the BlueMed Economy Platform, which, as you know, is indeed a disposal of the region for exchanging, let's say, practices, best practices, lessons learned, but as well as to share, let's say, project activities, look for partners and, let's say, relevant regional stakeholders to implement indeed the activities in the future. So many thanks again for being here, and we look forward to the next steps together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. Okay, next we have Rosalia Santoleri. She's the president of the Italian Oceanographic Commission. Rosalia, you have 5 minutes.
Thanks very much. First of all, I would like to thank the BlueMed colleague that invited me to participate to this event, and compliment them from the achievement that their results they achieved during the program. This is very impressive. Second point, I would take this occasion to say that we need, as a Mediterranean community, to take into account of this achievement and go to a step forward in the next years. And I think that the starting of the Ocean Decade of Science that starts just this year will give the opportunity to take the outcome of the BlueMed program and use this and the implementation plan of this of BlueMed to go to a step forward. You know, several person cite the Ocean Decade, and I would like to consider that this gives us an opportunity, a challenge to transform the information and the knowledge of science in and provide transformation for the blue economy, for the Green Deal, and to inform also the people of what is the status of our ocean, and especially the state of our Mediterranean Sea, and what is important to go bring in the next years. And to consider to this, I would like to say that the Italian Oceanographic Commission that I have the honor to lead, we tried in the last year to make a point what could be the contribution of the Mediterranean science community, but not only the science community, the Mediterranean countries and organization working on the Mediterranean to contribute to the Ocean Decade. And this was a co-design effort that we did the last year with workshop, virtual and in person, and to provide, to build up a white paper of the status of the Mediterranean that takes into account the outcome also of the BlueMed initiative. And try to prepare a program for the next decade in which we should achieve make all the steps partly designed in the BlueMed documents, part designed in other documents of the program carried out during the last year in the Mediterranean seas and at the European level, and define what are the next steps. We also promote a proposal program that was submitted with the contribution of BlueMed and the contribution of UMEP MAP and contribution of several organizations and nations, and the contribution of the scientific community of the Mediterranean to the IOC program. And I believe that this could be a possibility to go a step forward and provide all the action that we need to carry out in the next year. And this program that we call the Mediterranean we want for the future will be a possible way to define a possible action for the next years, in which we want to go a step forward for science, but also to provide all the possible solutions to help our countries and our community to develop a sustainable sustainable Mediterranean regions. So I take this opportunity to inform you of this step and hope that this community could help us in the next month to define the detailed development plan of the ocean decade program for the Mediterranean Sea. That's
Thank you very much, Rosalia. Okay, next we have Sandra Ketelhacker. She's from the Joint Programming Initiative, Healthy and Productive Seas and Oceans, JPI Oceans. Sandra, your 5 minutes start now.
Thanks, Sheila, and good afternoon to everybody. And thanks a lot for the invitation to this meeting. And JPI Oceans would like to congratulate to the great outcomes and legacy that BlueMed developed and shared within our communities. And probably the most important and very constructive and inspiring cooperation between BlueMed and JPI Oceans was and is in the process leading to the European Partnership for Climate Neutral, Sustainable and Productive Blue Economy, the so-called Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership that was already mentioned by Elisabetta Balzi. And so for the development of the strategic research and innovation agenda, which has been coordinated by JPI Oceans and its member countries, it was important to build on an extensive analysis of priority settings and stakeholder consultations. And this partnership sphere takes into account the commonalities among JPI Oceans' new strategy framework and existing spheres from the European Union sea basins and builds on them. So including the Mediterranean, Black Sea, Baltic and North Sea, as well as developments in the Atlantic Ocean. And so here it was excellent that Margarita from the BlueMed CSA was involved in the whole process. And we thank her very much again for the contributions that she supported the process. And so the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership is envisaged as a co-funded partnership under the Horizon European Research and Innovation Framework Program 2021 to 2027. And this RIA is a framework of agreed high-level ideas from thematic partnerships, priorities on which the development of annual work plans by the formal parties to the partnership will be based. So from the perspective of the sea basins in general, as already mentioned, the 3R was designed to build on the commonalities between all of them and also be high level. So that they can interpret the research and innovation objectives in ways that are specific to their own sea basins and their particular issues. And so the 3R is centered around 4 thematic pillars. The first is the blue economy and harmony with nature. The second is on blue economy solutions towards climate neutrality. The third is a thriving blue economy for the people. And the last one is integrated and responsive ocean governance. And so in these 4 pillars, research and innovation objectives are grouped. And there are also 7 key enablers, which were considered to be essential to enable the achievements of the research and innovation objectives across all pillars. And so from BlueMed, it was highlighted from the start that jobs and skills are the need for enhancing human capacities to support the transition to a sustainable blue economy. And to that end, the 3R now has a key enabler on human capacity. And in addition, BlueMed highlighted from day one the relevance of the land-sea continuum, which is covered in all the narratives and also through links to other partnerships. And in terms of the research and innovation objectives, BlueMed had a strong focus on the safety and reduction of coastal hazards, as well as on tourism and resilience, and economic as well as environmental of coastal communities were also a focus of them. And all these aspects are very much highlighted in the pillar 3, which was the one on thriving blue economy for the people. And finally, I would like to mention the importance on BlueMed of enabling the good environmental status. This is part of pillar 1 of the 3R. And here, for example, a fruitful cooperation between BlueMed and JPI Oceans already started and will continue. And this leads to, for example, a joint BlueMed and JPI Oceans workshop held in December last year, The workshop started a fruitful discussion about the scientific contributions to design and structure, complementary path in addressing the good environmental status. And the workshop was part of the JP Oceans Joint Action Science for Good Environmental Status, which is led by Belgium, Italy, and Malta, and has currently 11 participating countries. The focus of the joint action is on knowledge sharing, meaning the connections to existing projects and processes, contributing to structured dialogues between different experts, facilitate the transformation from a silo approach to a true ecosystem approach through expert workshops and an established group of experts. Another focus is on joint integrating monitoring approaches, which lead to a harmonized, wide regional, innovative, cost-efficient and effective assessment schemes. And the last focus is on the way towards augmented observatories used as an integrated observation, monitoring and experimentation infrastructure. And yeah, so with this, I would very much like to thank all the work that has been done in BlueMed, and yeah, especially for the joint action on Science for Good Environmental Status to Marius Proveri from BlueMed, or from the BlueMed team, who's working with us on this and guiding our way forward together with other experts. So yeah, thanks a lot for the opportunity. Sheila, I think we can't hear you anymore. Ah, now you're back.
So we now give the floor to Daniele Bosio from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and now chair of the BlueMed Initiative, co-chair with the Moroccan presidency. Thank you, Daniele.
Thank you, Margherita. Thank you to Sheila, waiting for her to reappear. And thank you also to the organizers and to the extraordinary team of the BlueMed. I am indeed I'm the coordinator of maritime affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy, and on behalf of Italy, the co-president of the Initiative for the Sustainable Development of the Blue Economy in the Western Mediterranean, together with Libya, not Morocco. Morocco ceased its co-presidency in 2020, and we are co-chairing. Italy is now co-chairing the BlueMed Initiative with Libya, who will continue next year without us and with Malta. So this is the structure of the co-presidency of the BlueMed Initiative, which is indeed, as you may understand, both political, economical, and technical initiative. So it gathers all these characteristics, and that's because we know that the economic and geopolitical importance of the Western Mediterranean. It is a peaceful area of cooperation that connects African and European countries through some of the most important ports of the European Union and the Euro-Mediterranean area. In this framework, the BlueMed Initiative has also a very important added value at all levels, local, national, regional, as it allows the development of potentials that would otherwise remain dormant. It is an instrument of North-South cooperation, and it is a reality that has the potential for joint and sustainable development of a sector, the maritime economy, which represents the most visible link between the two shores of the Mediterranean. Since the ministerial conference in Naples in November 2017, which gave birth to the initiative, the BlueMed Initiative developed rapidly, consolidated its institutional architecture, and producing its first concrete fruits with the adoption of a number of concrete projects. Today, the BlueMed Initiative is focusing on 5 main sectoral areas where concrete initiatives are being promoted: green shipping, aquaculture, the development of maritime clusters, coastal tourism, and the promotion of blue skills. The roadmap, which supports this priority, makes indeed constant reference to the BlueMed Initiative strategic agenda. On these areas, the area of green shipping is specifically important as it is animated by the first technical group created by the steering committee of the initiative. The group itself aims at allowing for greater spin-off for innovation through the logistic chains depending on the region, transforming, renewing, and adapting regional vessels, and their transitioning towards the use of fully sustainable source of fuel or energy, as well as addressing the potentials of transforming ports into circular hubs for sustainable energy production and consumption. And finally, supporting the use of LNG as the first step towards decarbonization of the sector and as an entry point of other alternative fuels for maritime transportation. Building on these points, a number of projects have been identified. First, a feasibility study on how to boost green shipping through maximizing investments in sustainable energy, and 2 pilot actions, one on the creation of a network of WestMed maritime ports as energy communities, and 2, on the adaptation of WestMed commercial vessels, ferries and services, especially on short haul, to adaptation to green energy. In this framework, the Life for Med ECA has been launched. It is a project aimed at supporting the preparation of an emission control area in the Mediterranean Sea. The project includes establishing a wide group of stakeholders and engaging them in targeted consultations so as to gather relevant additional knowledge, facilitate transfer of best practices and dialogue with and across industry, as well to assessing possible cost impact mitigation, also through EU funding opportunity. It will as well establish a mechanism for ensuring full and timely availability of all the deliverables to stakeholders and public authorities, and define a continuation plan so as not to lose the knowledge gathered, and allowing for future updating as necessary. Aquaculture is the next step of WestMed cooperation, as it will translate into the creation, possibly in April at the next meeting of the steering committee, of a technical group similar to the one on green shipping and focusing on concrete initiative and projects aimed at creating job opportunities and income generating investment projects, especially in the southern shore countries. Another important area of action includes the development of cooperation between maritime clusters. This means to support a stronger network alliance across the most active maritime clusters in the Western Mediterranean by building, for example, on the positive experience of the Italian-Tunisian cluster cooperation agreement recently concluded by the 2 sides, but also by reaching out to other important EU networks, such as the European Network of Maritime Clusters and the European Cluster Alliance. Such network or alliance would provide a strong platform, we think, to further define project ideas, expand commercial relations with regional clusters, including, for example, non-maritime clusters, strictly speaking, which are relevant for the blue economy, and promote capacity building and sharing of good practices, and finally, foster further matchmaking and pitching activities with financing actors. In this framework, the initiative is increasingly strengthening synergies with other Mediterranean initiatives or funds, including, for example, Interreg, strategies such as USAIR. We are cooperating strongly with the IOC promoted pilot project on maritime spatial planning, all in order to maximize the effects on investment and cooperation at the regional level. It will also increase, the initiative will also increase cooperation on research and technological development initiative in the Mediterranean to maximize project opportunities. As part of the WestMed initiative, sectoral activities, greater cooperation is also promoted with Mediterranean bodies, in particular the FAO General Fishery Commission of the Mediterranean, REMPEC on pollution emergency response, or the SETMO on transportation issues, and of course with the Union for the Mediterranean. It is important on this aspect that the last Union for the Mediterranean Ministerial Declaration on Sustainable Blue Economy recognized the WestMed initiative as a successful example of cooperation and as a catalyst for the development of sustainable blue economy projects in the region. The next step of the WestMed activity will need to exploit the new ERDF framework call for the embedding of sea-basin strategies in all the programming exercise for 2021-2027. Member states and managing authorities are going to be invited to make use of EU funds under shared management to support sea-basin initiative. And it will be necessary, that will be another recommendation, to consider among EU member states ways to support the priorities of WestMed, also by mobilizing their official development aid. With the aim and the final goal to develop synergies in the blue economy sector between EU funds and funds provided by the member states. I conclude here and thank you to all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Danielle, and thank you all for carrying on regardless when I popped off my Wi-Fi for some reason. I think it was getting a bit tired there. So that concludes this session for us. We'll now launch a poll. Well, you will see that the poll was in the chat before. So George is going to put the responses to the poll up there. You can, if you go into the chat, maybe Margareta, you guys can put it in there again so that people can see where to go and fill in. So here it's basically a poll to look at the different strategic actions, and as you're filling it in, we will see which of the actions are the most liked by the people in the audience. At the moment, it looks like we have 22 responses, and 45% of you said that cooperation program for environmental data collection and sharing ideas between marine economic sectors, environmental authorities, research, and citizens is very important. So if you continue filling in, I think there's quite a lot of questions to be asked, but I think you can only pick your best three. So the second action that got quite a lot of responses, 41%, is to scale up the BlueMed, oopsie, it's gone away. Scale up the BlueMed pilot on healthy plastic-free Mediterranean, I think. I'm not sure. Yes, scale up the, yes, there we go. The third one is the joint action on science for good environmental status. And the fourth one is on call on biodiversity and resources. So those are the answers that we have so far. I think the Slido will stay open for a little bit longer. So if you guys want to continue reading through those and picking your important action that you think needs to be fulfilled. We were going to have question and answers, but at the moment we haven't had any questions that come in, and we are terribly over time. So I'm sure everybody is now desperately hungry and wanting to go and have a walk around. So I am going to leave it at that. And I'm going to thank you all for all your attention. This is the end of the second day of the conference, but be aware that at 2 o'clock there will be the coffee room that's open, which I'm sure Margareta will put the link in the chat for you again. And we want to thank all of the speakers in the session. It was really interesting. I'm very sorry I missed the last bit of Sandra's and the first bit of Danielle's presentation. but I think it was really interesting, and I had some very interesting thoughts that came up and questions that I'll ask you all later. I want to thank the participants, I want to thank the speakers, but we also have some technical thank yous to give. The support team at the CNR Digital Hub in Italy was amazing to make this happen. So we have Valentina, Luigi, Paolo, and Vittorio. Thank you very much. IFREMER supported the translation via Rafiki, and OPM MCST supported with Slido. So we want to thank all of these supporters that made this conference possible. Remember that the conference continues at 2 o'clock, as I said, with the informal coffee room, but also the conference will continue tomorrow morning at 9:30 with a keynote speech and the presentation of the results of the BlueMed Startup Action, so the Slido, as well as a discussion on the Snapshot project. So now you see here the artist Gabriela Perez has given us an illustration of the implementation plan. I love these things. You can always look at them for a really long time. So yes, keep doing the good work and keep pushing forward with the Mediterranean and showing, you know, how important it is for everybody to work together. So I want to, with that, thank you all for your time. And I think we can probably, with that, call this day of the conference over, except for the informal coffee that we have. So if you are ready to go and have some lunch, I think this is probably your cue. And it was lovely to spend my day with you guys, and I'll see you all back up around the Med sometime, hopefully soon in real life. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, and thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, thank you all.